I'm Marvi.
The memory of that day still stings, like a fresh wound that refuses to heal. It was my sister Luna's baby shower, a supposed celebration of new life, but it turned into a battlefield where my son, Ethan, a brave 9-year-old, became the hero. The backyard was a sight to behold. Balloons in soft pastels framed the patio door, and rows of white folding chairs, each tied with a delicate ribbon, were neatly arranged. A 3-tiered cake sat on a pedestal table, with fondant flowers and the words, Baby Miller, in elegant cursive. There were 30 guests, all dressed in coordinated outfits, chatting and laughing as if there were no secrets lurking beneath the surface. Luna, 28 and glowing with pregnancy, was the center of attention. She moved through the crowd, hugging and taking pictures, while I stood on the sidelines, feeling like an outsider. I'd made a handmade blanket for the baby, spending long nights knitting it with love, but it seemed so insignificant compared to the expensive gifts on the table. As the party went on, the jabs started. Luna's friend, Ava, with her brash voice and a knowing smirk, leaned across the table and asked, Margie, still flying solo? Any prospects on the horizon? Before I could respond, my mother, Helen, who had always favored Luna, cut in. Margie's focused on Ethan. That's enough for her. Her words were meant to be a defense, but they felt like a slap in the face. Then came the toast. Helen stood up, her voice carrying across the yard. To my beautiful daughter, Luna, and to Ryan, who gave her everything a mother could hope for, a real home, a real partnership, a complete family. The word complete hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt Ethan's hand find mine under the table, squeezing tightly. During the advice-sharing part, Luna looked straight at me and said, I'm so grateful my baby will have a complete home, with 2 parents. At least my baby will have a father. The yard erupted in laughter. Some covered their mouths, while others didn't even bother to hide their amusement. Ethan's grip on my hand tightened, and I could feel his small body trembling. But then, Ethan stood up. His voice was clear and steady as he said, Aunt Luna, should I tell everyone about Uncle Ryan's other family? The yard went deathly silent. Luna's smile froze, and Ryan, who was standing by the mimosa bar, turned pale. Ethan continued, Uncle Ryan has another house, with Aunt Lily and a little boy named Jake. He's 4 and he showed me his toys. The shock on everyone's faces was palpable. Ryan tried to brush it off, saying Ethan was confused, but Ethan was calm and firm. I went to the house. You took me there and Aunt Lily made us sandwiches. Luna grabbed Ethan's backpack and found the drawing he'd made. It showed 2 houses, one with Luna and Ryan and the other with Ryan, Lily, and Jake. Her hands shook as she stared at the paper. Ryan quickly grabbed his keys and left, leaving Luna in a state of shock. Luna turned on me, accusing me of bringing Ethan to humiliate her. I explained that I'd asked Ryan to tell her himself, but he'd refused. I had a plan to tell her privately after the shower, but Ethan had heard her cruel words and decided to speak the truth. I walked over to the chair where I'd placed my blanket, folded it carefully, and then turned to my mother. Mom, you can call me when you're ready to have a conversation that doesn't start with what I did wrong. Until then, Ethan and I are going home. Looking back, it all started 6 weeks ago. 6 years ago, my husband left me with a note that said, I can't do this. Ethan was just 3 at the time. I was left with half a degree in finance and a bank balance of $420. But I was determined. I finished my degree at night, passed the financial analyst exam with Ethan sleeping under my desk because I couldn't afford a babysitter. By 32, I'd started my own financial consulting firm, working from a small office above a coffee shop that smelled of freshly brewed coffee. Despite my success, my family never saw me as anything but a failure. Luna, who married Ryan at 23, had a beautiful house in the suburbs, a new car, and was now expecting a baby. Every family gathering, every phone call, was a reminder of how I'd fallen short. 5 weeks before the shower, Ryan called me. He needed a favor. Luna had a prenatal appointment, and he offered to pick Ethan up from school so I could meet a client deadline. I almost said no, but Ethan was so excited, so I agreed. When Ryan dropped Ethan off, he had a small paper bag. Inside was a toy that was clearly meant for a much younger child. Ethan said Ryan had grabbed two, one for him and one for someone else, but he wouldn't say who. Later that night, I found a crumpled receipt in Ethan's jacket pocket. It was from a gas station in a town called Oakwood, 35 minutes away, far from Ryan's sales territory. 3 weeks before the shower, I started knitting the blanket. Each stitch was a silent prayer, a hope that Luna would see me as more than just the single mom. I worked on it late at night, after Ethan had gone to bed, thinking about how I wanted to be accepted by my family. 4 days before the shower, Ryan texted me, asking me to look at some bank statements for a refinance. I should have said no, but I wanted to prove myself to him and my family. When I looked at the statements, I noticed a recurring auto pay of $1,500 per month to a property management company in Oakwood, and another charge of $650 per month to a daycare in the same town. I knew something was wrong. I spent the next 2 days trying to convince myself that there was an innocent explanation, but the more I thought about it, the more the pieces fit together. I cross-referenced the payment dates with Ryan's business trips, and it was clear that he was funding a second household. 3 days before the shower, Ryan picked Ethan up again. Ethan came home quiet and thoughtful. He told me that Ryan had taken him to a house with a woman named Lily and a little boy named Jake. Ryan had told Ethan it was a surprise and not to tell anyone, especially Luna. The next morning, I found Ethan's drawing in his backpack. It was a simple picture, but it told the whole story. I knew I had to do something, but I also knew that dropping this bombshell at the baby shower would be cruel. So, I made a plan to tell Luna privately after the shower. But plans don't always work out. Ethan, in his innocent wisdom, saw the injustice and decided to speak up. And in that moment, the truth came out, shattering the perfect facade my family had created. After the party, Ryan disappeared for a week. Luna called me, her voice flat and numb. He took $25,000 from our joint savings over the last year. How did I not notice? I told her how he'd routed the money through a secondary account. Luna asked if I could help, and I said yes. Over the next 2 weeks, I pulled apart Ryan's financial records, uncovering hidden assets and unreported income. Luna hired a lawyer, and the lawyer was impressed with the organized file I'd put together. My mother called once, saying she didn't know about Ryan. I told her the same thing I told her at the shower. She hasn't called back since. I sent the blanket to Luna by mail. No note, just the soft yellow yarn in a clean box. The baby would need it, and the baby was innocent. That night, Ethan and I sat on the kitchen floor, eating ramen from mismatched bowls. Ethan had a noodle hanging from his chin, and his slurping made us both laugh. He asked me if it was bad that he didn't have a father. I pulled him close and said, "You have me, and I have you. We're not missing anything, Ethan." He thought for a moment, and then asked about Jake. I told him that Jake had people who loved him too, even though the grown-ups had made mistakes. Ethan then said, "Mom, at the party, when everyone laughed at you, I didn't think it was funny. I just thought Aunt Luna was being mean and Uncle Ryan had another family, so I wanted to tell the truth." His simple logic was more powerful than any argument I could have made. A family isn't defined by a perfect picture or a traditional structure. It's about love, honesty, and standing up for what's right. And in that moment, I was so proud of my little hero. If you've ever been judged by your family while they hid their own secrets, know that the truth will always find a way to come out. Share this story if it resonates with you, and let's remind each other that quiet women see everything, and sometimes a child's voice can be the loudest of all.